Hello everyone, my name is Divin, and I'm here to talk to you about ranking up in PUBG. Now, I'm not going to talk to you about aiming or which weapons you use where. There are plenty of other videos that cover those topics, and you don't need one more. What I'm honestly here to talk to you about is what exactly, one, you need to be concerned with in order to rank up in PUBG, and two, ways you need to think about the way you play PUBG so that you will, in fact, rank up. Now, first off, who am I and why might you want to listen to me? Number one, I am not someone who spends 8 hours a day, 7 days a week playing PUBG. I am not Shroud, I don't have pixel vision. I am, in fact, a father, a full-time worker. On the side, I own my own company and work. I play PUBG a few hours a week, and somehow still, I manage on a fairly regular basis to make it to top 1,000, top 500, top 200 players. So, with all that, I want to combine this video into something where it kind of gives you an overview of the ways I think about PUBG and why I believe those ways help me rank up, and why I think they'll help you rank up as well. Now, in order to rank up in PUBG, I think we need to start with what PUBG is not. PUBG is not a classic FPS. Now, at first you're thinking, well, duh. But, in all honesty, the most classic, common mistake I see people playing is people playing PUBG like they would COD or Battlefield or CSGO, and it's not one of those games. You can't play it the same, and you can't think about the same. And one of my goals is going to be teaching you how exactly you should be thinking about PUBG. How exactly is your rank determined? Well, most people are aware that it's actually a combination of your survival score plus your kill score. And this is true, but not completely. It's actually weighted in favor of your survival score. It's something along the lines of 2/3 of your survival score plus 1/3 of your kill score. So what that means is your kill score is worth less than your survival score. So if you want to rank up, that essentially translates to you having to make it further in game. The further you make it in game, the better you do. And if you take a look at your survival score stats, and those things just contribute to it, you know, things that affect it negatively are like suicides. Things that affect it positively are variations in kill, and how far you drive, and how long you generally survive, especially things like how many times you win, and how many times you get top 10. And so you have to think about these things. Your kill score is important, but not nearly as important. Now that we know what we need to be focusing on in order to rank up in PUBG, now we need to think about what does this mean for us as we play the game? How do we play PUBG more effectively? How do we think about the game more effectively so that we are in fact surviving longer and ranking up? Well, the first point I'm going to make is about practicing the basics. The basics are things like shooting and aiming at different distances, learning the difference between certain weapons, learning how to parachute, and also things like learning to drive vehicles. A common mistake I see people do is treat vehicles like death traps. Vehicles are great tools and useful in a lot of scenarios, but people tend to think of them as kind of something that should be avoided, and there's good cause, but really and truly, vehicles are something that a lot of people don't utilize and really should be utilizing. There's a lot of cons, but there's more pros using vehicles than there really is anything else. The next thing you need to think about is breaking the game up into stages. For example, flying over. This is where you need to figure out where you're going to land. The second stage is, of course, mid-stage. That's where you've landed, you've gotten a little bit of loot. Hopefully you may or may not be close to or found a vehicle. And you need to be basically being, if you don't have those things immediately upon landing, trying to acquire them. Mid game is all about pushing towards circle while still surviving. So you're no longer worried about looting. If you're still looting by mid game, you're doing something wrong, or you're just having a bad game. But those should be far and few between. Generally, if you're finding yourself constantly in mid game, still needing, basic things. I'm not saying you're completely tricked out, but if you're still needing basic things like health packs and stuff, chances are you might be doing some things wrong. You might be wasting time. This is also where you need to be avoiding people. Part of playing PUBG is, avoiding unnecessary conflict, but more on that later. And of course, end game. And end game is probably the part of the game that is mostly reliant upon chance. And so reducing chance there is difficult. Not undoable, but it is difficult. And again, we'll get more on that later. Right, so stage 1, which is when you're flying over, or pre-game, this is where you need to be thinking about several things. First off, where are you going to land? And how do you figure out where you're going to land? Well, again, with your efforts being on survival, you need to land somewhere where A, you can have a chance at getting decent loot, B, hopefully not be immediately surrounded by 20 people, and C, have a decent chance of getting a vehicle. Those are the 3 things you need to focus on. I could go into more detail about what more to do, but that would take up a whole video by itself. So I'm going to go over some basics here. First off, you need to find somewhere that is secluded, but not barren. And what that means is somewhere where you're going to find loot and a vehicle, hopefully not drop with anyone else, but maybe drop with 1 or 2 other people. Some people where you have a really good reasonable chance of taking them out and surviving. But not somewhere so remote that all you have is a pistol and maybe like an ump or something, with no attachments, no health packs, maybe a helmet or a level 1 vest, but nothing really. Like, you want to land somewhere where you think you're going to get decent amounts of loot. One tactic I use is in every place on the map, I have what I call bases, or places where I have landed so many times, I know them like the back of my hand. These are places I trust to generally have good loot, have vehicle spawns, and be places where people don't typically land, or if they do, it's not like a group landing. I avoid places like Picado, the large cities, anywhere where there's going to be a large group of people. And the main reason is in order to rank up, you have to survive. A lot of people play PUBG wrong in that they go in, they land a Picado, they die, like, at 85 or 70, and think, oh, well, I get to try next game. That's not true. That one death is going to hurt you and your rank. You lose rank when you die. And the further up you get, the harder it is to hold on to your rank, and the more you have to lose. So, for example, let's say that I'm currently ranked like 500. That's not uncommon. And I have one bad game. And when I say bad game, I mean I die before I hit 60 players left. All of a sudden, I go from being, because of that one game, I will go from being ranked 500 to like 750. Or if I die really early, like 850. I literally lost 200 to 350 ranks from one bad game. That's how important survival is at the beginning of the game. And like I said again, you're focusing us on finding a place that has loot, isn't barren, and has little to no people. And that takes practice, and it takes a lot of exploring. But that is your tactic for beginning of the game, your flight stage. Now, stage 2 is after you've landed, you've secured your location, and you've started looting. This is really where you start to loot with your idea of getting set up for the rest of the game. You don't want to spend stages 3 and 4 looting. Looting should be the last thing in your mind. If you're still looting at those stages, you're playing the game wrong, you're going to die, it's going to be problematic for you. You want to get as set up now as you can. You want level 2 gear, you want a good backpack. You want a decent amount of ammo. You don't want to be picking up weapons you're not going to use. Don't, unless you just have nothing else, don't pick up weapons you're not going to use and thinking, well, I'll just upgrade it later. No, get something you can work at. Get it. Don't waste time putting attachments on things, standing still, unless you know you're going to keep this weapon. This is where you want to be going as fast as you can, getting as much loot as you can, as safely as you can. And we all know what unsafe practices are. That's kicking in a door and standing in front of it and not, if there's a chance there's someone there, treat each room as if there might be someone in there. Don't just walk in there unexpectedly thinking, well, I'll shoot first, because you won't. You're likely going to die. You want to be thinking, all right, how set up am I, and what else do I need to set up? Now, this is also where you want to try securing a vehicle, because a vehicle is going to get you through the rest of the game. A lot of people treat vehicles, again, as death traps. They generally try to avoid them because they think, well, the enemy can hear me, they're going to shoot me, I'm just going to blow up, they're going to have a bad time. And my experience has been that's actually not the case. You have a better chance of surviving if you have a vehicle versus crossing a map on foot. Because however many people are left is how many people right now are likely in the hills trying to take pot shots at you. And some of them are probably going to be pretty good shots. On a vehicle, it's a lot harder. Even if someone has an aimbot, it is so much harder to hit you in a vehicle, and it is so much safer. Yes, you're generally giving your position away, but you're getting across the map further. And generally my opinion is most people die trying to get from point A to point B. And this doesn't necessarily have to be this way. If you can get a vehicle, you can generally get safely from point A to point B. Now, the third stage, which is mid-game, is where you're basically trying to get yourself set up for the final showdown. And generally speaking, the best practice I can give here is try to go not dead center of the current circle, but close to it. Like, imagine there's a tiny circle, or as let's say a circle about half the size of the current circle in the middle. Try and land somewhere on the edge of that circle, because the circle is almost never going to go dead middle of itself. It's always going to be somewhere kind of askew, and generally if you land somewhere in there, you will, not always, but generally find yourself still in circle. And the less traversing you have to do mid-game, the better. Because generally, as games and circles get smaller and smaller, especially in mid-game, more and more people are getting pressed on each other, which means you're more and more likely to find yourself in a situation where there's a lot of people out there ready to take pot shots. Again, this is also why if you have to move, you generally want a vehicle on you. You want a vehicle on you, so if you have to move, you can do so, quote-unquote, as safely as possible. Now, another thing is if you find yourself in a situation where you see somebody, and you see them running across the field, and you're like, ah, yes, I can take a kill, I just pull up my sniper rifle. Don't do it. Unless they are an immediate harm to you, or it is the end of the game, don't do it. Let someone else do it. And here's why. You are giving away, 1, your position. You are 2, wasting ammo. You are 3, letting them know that you see them and where you are. So if you don't get that one shot, one kill, you have just given yourself away to not only them, but anyone else who can hear your shot. So there's going to be someone nearby who's now thinking about, oh, there's a person there. How do I kill them? Because that's how people think in this game. So every time you take a shot, it's not without a price. If you take a shot in a game, especially mid-game, at the beginning of the game it's not so important, but this mid-game it starts to get important that you don't take unnecessary shots, you don't take unnecessary fights. You give away more than you get. You might get one kill, but you've just given your position away to half, if not all, the map. Now, again, if you find yourself in an unfortunate situation, PUBG is also a game of chance. You do your best. You hide in the shadows. You try and think, where are people likely to be hiding? Where do they think other people are hiding? What does this mean for me? Can I find a creative way to hide? Can I like put my back up against the wall and give myself where I am exposed, but only in a field of vision which I have as well, so i.e. no one's going to shoot you in the back. You know, you want to try and find these ways of basically saying, what is my best way to survive this? You know, what can I do best to survive? If you find yourself in a bad situation or even a good situation, you need to be thinking of your next move and what's likely to get you to survive. And sometimes it's as simple as saying, I've got a great spot to hide. I can't kill anybody from here, but I can hide here. And so that's what you do, is you stop, you hide, and you wait till you can't hide anymore. Late game is the part of the game where it's kind of hard to give good advice because so much of it is left up to chance. This is where you have very little control over the circumstances that you find yourself in, and they vary so greatly. So it's hard to give general advice, but what advice I can give is generally this. Calm yourself. When most people make it to this part of the game, they're freaking out a little bit. And one way I fight freaking out is I think when I make it to top 10, I've won. That doesn't mean I don't want the chicken dinner, but it means I've won. If you make it a top 10, congratulations, you're going to rank up. If you're ranked 500 and you make it a top 10, then you're going to be ranked 480 when you load a leaderboard next. You're going to rank up. Making a top 10 is all it really takes to rank up consistently in the game. Like I said, I generally place make it a top 10 once at least every third game. That's generally how it goes. And that's really all it takes to rank up. You don't have to win every game. You don't have to have, 40 kills per game. That's unnecessary. But as long as you're calm during the last bit of the game, if you make it a top 10 consistently, you're going to get used to it. You're going to be calm. You're going to be chill, and that's going to keep your hands from shaking, your forehead from being sweaty. You'll make better, more calculated decisions, and generally speaking, you'll win more. And just generally making it a top 10 more, just by chance favoring you, which will happen from time to time, you're going to get a chicken dinner. You may go 5 games in a row, make it a top 10, and go, I never got chicken dinner, and then on the 6th one, you barely have to try, because you made the top 10, your chances of actually winning are actually pretty decent. I mean, they're generally 1 in 10, you roll a 10-sided dice long enough, you're going to hit 10. So that's generally my advice when it comes to end game, is be aware of your surroundings, know that when you take a shot, people know where you are, read the map as best you can, know where generally people are going to be, and just be calm. You can't win them all, but you can be calm. Again, my name is Diven. I hope this has been informative. There are more topics I could go into, and a lot of these topics I could go more in depth, but that would take a long, long time. Like, subscribe, and if I get enough positive feedback and enough people request it, I will do another video. Again, I hope you guys do well.